Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the extra time segment for Everton 2, Watford 5. I can't even believe I'm saying this, to be honest. I can't believe that I've had to read out a scoreline of that ilk. It's absolutely absurd. So that sort of set the tone for the kind of show that you're about to tune into, guys. It's myself and Mike from the Unholy Trinity Podcast. Welcome to the show, Mike. How are you doing? Good question.
Yeah, better than Saturday about 5 o'clock, but still, as you say, that to listen to that result again. I thought you were going to say Everton 2, Watford 1 or something like that. I thought it was going to be a change of scoreline, but no, it wasn't. It wasn't a nightmare. It was actually real life. So I'm still struggling to come to terms with the fact that we shipped 4 goals in 12, 13 minutes, to be perfectly honest.
It's absurd. That's the thing, to think we're going to discuss a game here that we were winning until the 78th minute. And we lost it by 3 goals. It's just, that in itself it's unbelievable to actually, like you say, come to terms with the fact that that happened. But Mike, well, obviously it's a tough one, but what would you say went wrong? What's the root causes of us throwing away 4 goals in 12 minutes?
I mean, how many words are there? Enough words in the dictionary to sort of summarise what went wrong? I don't know, but I think that it was totally unprofessional, if I'm being perfectly honest. You sit with a 2-1 lead. I didn't feel particularly comfortable sitting there, to be honest. I was always a little bit on edge. I was saying to my dad, we need another 1 or 2 here before I start to relax. It just couldn't settle for whatever reason. Whether that was because we were losing the midfield battle all game, which I thought we were. We were susceptible on set pieces, which proved to be our Achilles heel yet again. I think a lot of it was down to players just switching off. Whether there's an attitude issue there, I don't know. Only the manager can answer that. I think the manager's culpable. I think he got it wrong. I think that I don't know why we didn't have 3 in midfield. At least when we went 2-1 up, at least then pack the midfield, bring on it. Whether he, there's an issue with Gabama or not, we don't know why he's not getting any game time. But throw Holgate in the middle, or put Godfrey in the middle of the midfield, or put Holgate on a centre back. Do something to sort out the midfield. Take Rondon off and let Richarlison just stay up front on his own. I don't know. There were so many issues along the way. I mean, Gordon going off. The manager decides to explain that he hasn't got 90 minutes in his legs. Well, I still would have given him 70, 75. Get Richarlison on for Rondon, or even though Gray was gassing, he seemed a little bit out of sorts on the day. Townsend wasn't as effective. I think Gordon should have stayed on because he was carrying the ball well and he was causing a few issues. So I think the players are culpable, the manager's culpable, the coaching staff are culpable. Whatever could have gone wrong went wrong, and we looked like total amateurs from minute 78 onwards.
It was summed up in some of the goals we conceded, but laughable. It was terrible. Some of those goals that we let in. I'm going to touch on, we'll try and dissect it. We're not going to go too singling out players because there's plenty of bad performances there. You mentioned Rondon, of course, was really struggling again up front and really doesn't look fit to be an Everton player, unfortunately. I think the more games we see, the more that seems to be the case. I hope that after the international break that he's maybe picked up in terms of his fitness, but it looks as though he's just not going to be what we need, even as a backup. I think that's a disappointing thing.
It's a struggle, isn't it? Because we've discussed this many times ourselves, and we was brought in to be a bit part player, to be back up to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Obviously, when you compare the two, it's absolutely night and day. In terms of the attributes that Dominic Calvert-Lewin has got compared to Rondon. I think the disappointing thing for me, I've always cut him quite a bit of slack because he's coming without a pre-season. Basically, he's had to build his fitness up by playing 90 minutes. He's played out 4 on the spin, and he's been playing 75s and things like that. So he's been at a lot of game time to get himself fit. Like you say, international break came as well. Probably a good time for him to try and get himself fitter. I think the disappointing thing is that even with all this game time now, and he should be up to speed, he hasn't looked like scoring. He's had 1 shot on target, which is It's not good enough, unfortunately. But also, he's got a good scoring record in the Premier League. I think it's about 1 in sort of 2.5 games, something like that. That's not bad. And he knows the Premier League. So obviously, he knows how to play in this league. So for him to not to be looking like any kind of threat whatsoever in all the games that he's now played, that's the disappointing thing. I wasn't expecting him to sort of uproot any kind of trees, but I thought by now, after the internationals and, settling in and getting his fitness up, he'd be showing a bit more. I thought he'd be better than he actually
thought he'd
is.
serve more purpose.
Yeah. I mean, look at the balls that get put in the box on a weekly basis. I mean, you've got Townsend who loves coming back on his left foot and he puts some great balls in. Gray on the other side. Gray's putting balls across the 6-yard box every single week. Every single week. If Dom's there, we score. Dom probably would have scored maybe 3 or 4 goals in the time that Rondon's been playing, I think. We're putting some fantastic crosses in from free kicks. Luka Dean put some great balls in at the weekend. And, it's on a play for him a lot of the time. But a lot of the time, he's too far behind the play. Like, he'll pass the ball out wide himself. And he'll then just jog into the box and he's nowhere near the cross coming in, or
not trying to sprint in behind defenders or playing on shoulder or anything. There's no movement there.
No, and as a striker, you know, obviously the players around you, what their attributes are and how good they are at putting good balls into the box. So you know where you need to be. And besides the header against West Ham, which he did the right thing, flicked it on and went just wide of the post, he hasn't really come close to actually, he hasn't working a goalkeeper, like I say. One shot on target. I think he hit one in the first half against Watford, which was deflected wide. But, we're not seeing enough. And, I do like to try and give players, cut them a little bit of slack, especially when they first come in. And especially when he's been out of the Premier League for a couple of years or whatever it might be. But now we should be seeing a little bit more from him. And the concern is we're not. And the concern is Dom's out for another, 7 weeks or whatever it might be, 6 weeks. And that's the concern. What do we do in the interim? Is it a case of pulling them out of the side and saying to Richarlison, play up front and then put obviously Townsend and Gray either side? I don't know, but it's not all on Solomon Rondon, by the way. There was, like you said, besides probably Anthony Gordon and Pickford, to be fair, saved us probably conceding the 3 goals in the second half. Besides those 2, the rest of them were absolute disgrace. Let's just say it how it is. We can't dress it up any other way. I'll praise when praise is due, but you got to criticise when that's due. And the rest of them, for me, didn't put in a good enough shift.
There's some really bad performances in there. I think defensively, in particular, I think Michael Keane was terrible. I think Godfrey, like you say, he's not really been up to speed. I think he's obviously recovering from like long COVID or something, isn't he? So like that, that's obviously not done us any favours. And Luka Dean, I think, has been really below par this season. I think he's been atrocious. I think he's been probably one of the worst performers of the season so far.
I think with Luka Dean, because his standards were so high, weren't they? Let's think back to when he first came to the club and we were all panning for Leighton Baines and thinking, how do we replace Leighton Baines? How do we get someone in who can do what he does? Luka Dean came in, did a fantastic job, got his place in the side and never let it go. So his standard is so high. We're used to seeing him causing problems with his crossing ability, his set pieces, things like that. This season, I think because he's not being pushed, that's probably one of the reasons as to why he's flat. I think any player, as much as they want to be playing week in, week out, they need to be pushed and have someone breathing down the neck who could come in. If you slip up, I'm taking your spot. Now, how many positions in the side at this moment in time are nailed on to play week in, week out? There's a lot of them.
Way too many.
Exactly, and that's the problem, isn't it? So not just Luka Dean, who's obviously got that. Other players as well have got that sort of thinking. Well, if I'm fit, I play week in, week out. It makes no difference because there's no one behind me. That's a problem with Rondon at the moment, I suppose, as well. He's playing, and there's not another striker really.
He's horribly underperforming, and he's still undroppable.
Exactly. Yeah, he is, because he'll play week in, week out until Dom comes back in, for me. And that's such a shame, because if only we had someone else who could come in, a youngster. People argue about obviously Lewis Dobbin and Ellis Sims, and those kind of young lads. They shouldn't be getting lashed in. They shouldn't be. They're not ready. I mean, Ellis Sims is probably further along the line, but he suffered an injury at the back end of last season. He's only just come back, and then we've not seen him the last couple of weeks in the last couple of squads anyway. So there's no one pushing the players who are then coming in either. So that's the problem. And Luka Dean is basically that's what's happened to him. He's got no one behind him whatsoever because we let our backup left back go to Standard Liège on loan. So that's the problem that we're all suffering from. Thrown to the mix of our best centre half is quite often injured. Again, that's another problem. As much as I love Yerry Mina, we're not getting games. I think he played I think I looked last night, so like 13 or 14 games in his first season, and 33 this second season, and then I think about 20, 27, 28 last season, something like that. Not good enough. And he's great, and he's improved massively. I love him as a character. I think he's our best centre half. He's an organiser. But if you can't give me 35, 38 games a season, what do you do? And
can't afford to have injuries in your centre backs.
We can't. We can't get a partnership going because 1 week he's fit, the week after he's not. Obviously, Godfrey suffered from COVID. Michael Keane suffered from inconsistency and lack of form. So those three are sort of being rotated, and then Godfrey's going to left back or right back, and Holgate's not fancied. As Jordan Pickford, he'll be thinking, listen, I need two centre halves there. They're going to play every single week, so he can have his relationship with them. He knows exactly how every single player in front of him plays. And we haven't got that either. And again, we haven't got the squad depth to have another centre half who's as good as Yerry Mina to come in and replace him. And there's so many little issues that we can sit here and talk all day about. But it's a concern that we've got a reliance on a player in Yerry Mina who's got so many niggly injuries throughout the season. Such a shame for such a good centre half.
Definitely, and in terms of plenty of other positions, we keep speaking about this like lack of backup. That is a real issue because I think that across the board in the squad causes standards to drop or at best stagnate.
Oh, 100%. As I say, players will look what's there, and we know we've got a decent starting 11. If everyone's fit, we've got a good side there. As I say, I think probably Decore is key to it because of the fact that he's got the legs to get up and down. He puts his foot in really well, so he complements Alan in the centre of midfield. So take him out of the equation, like we saw the weekend, we struggle. We've got an England striker up top who's really developed in the last 18 months. He's got obviously now a medium-term injury. Take him out, so we struggle. We've got Richarlison, who over the last sort of 2 or 3 years has been one of our most effective players. Take him out, we can't replace him. That's the problem. If you're not getting pushed every single day in training by players behind you, then your standard will slip because you get sloppy and you get lazy. And we've seen that a few times, But I think we talk about mentality, and I hate discussing mentality because I thought we've come to a point last season where I thought things are changing here. You think back to Anfield and winning the derby and putting in good performances against the better side. And you think, yeah, mentality's changed. There's no way Everton should be losing at 5-2 to Watford. No way on this earth that should happen. With all due respect to Watford, they're not a top side. They're a bottom half side, and a side that they can cause you problems. And they've got some decent players there, but that is unforgivable. But is mentality an issue again? I don't know. I just don't know. Is confidence an issue? Do we get sloppy? I mean, it seems like when we can see goals, we fall apart. Look at Villa away. That game was on a knife edge. Could have gone either way. You can see the 3 goals in something like 8 minutes or something ridiculous. Look at Watford. We're winning the game, goes to 2-2. We can see 4 goals in 13 minutes. What's that saying? That's saying that there's an issue there with either confidence or mentality.
We've had this for years, mate. Even thinking back to Moyes' last season, that Wigan game, I think it was 3 goals in 5 minutes to knock us out the FA Cup. That's how there's a culture of capitulation here. It's happened for years. These games where we lose heavily, it always seems to be games where we've conceded about 3 in the space of 5 minutes, or in this case 4 in 12.
We've had some crazy games, haven't we, over the... I mean, look what the Spurs did 5-2, Chelsea 6-2.
Kiev.
Of course, yeah, of course. Just games like, I mean, I know it can happen to any side. On any given day, these things can happen, I suppose. But I thought that we were past that. I just thought that, we've said it a few times now, that in every game this season, the way that this manager likes to set up, he'd like to think that we'd be in every single game, and even people will argue, well, the Villa game we were up until conceding the first goal. The Watford game, of course, we were winning the game with 12 minutes to go. But there's no way then, if we set ourselves up correctly, that we should be conceding so many goals in such a short space of time. I mean, the mistakes that were made for all the goals, because all the goals are avoidable. 2 set pieces, they were avoidable straight away. We're learning nothing when it comes to defending set pieces this season. From being really, really solid last season, by the way, to this, it's night and day again.
The same
and then obviously
nonsense from Silva's tenure. It's And
well,
the problem we've got, Meat, is that Rafa Benitez swears by zonal marking, and it's going to be his downfall here. I can guarantee it.
It could be. I mean, it could be. I mean, I think under Ancelotti there was a mixture, wasn't there? I think there was zonal and then a little bit of man to man, and the players knew exactly what they were doing. They understood it. Same players that are there now, by the way. It's the same defense is what it is. It's the same core players. So everyone knew what they were doing in that. So if I'm the manager now coming in, I look at what worked last season. Okay, that was okay, because we had a specialised set piece coaching, David Ancelotti. That was his main job. He was excellent at it. That was what he was, one of his main things. So if that works, keep that. Don't be so stubborn to say, well, I do it this way. Well, we've been here before over the last so many years, and we can't do it. I know we've had a little bit of change of personnel, but we can't do it. So if that worked and we're really good at doing it, you should say, well, that's fine. Big Dunk was there last season. He could tell you, he could fill you in as to what they were doing. So keep it, no problem at all. And then work on the little things that weren't working and improve on them. But the set piece side of things is a massive concern. Zonal marking, I hate zonal marking. Whoever brought that in, it's just an absolute nonsense, because other players are getting the run on you all the time. The attackers are getting the run on you all the time. Unless you go man to man, that's always going to happen. But if you look at the first goal, Keane and Godfrey sort of missed the flick on, don't they? Missed the header, falls to Josh King, scores. The second goal, it was a free header. Just a free header. People just watching, and they can't get up high enough to challenge for the ball. But then the other 3 goals, you look at some of the stills that we've seen and what have you. I don't know what was going on. It was like the circus came to town from the 78th minute. I mean, how many times did we swing our legs and just miss the ball or slice the ball? And it was comical. Absolutely, you could show
the challenge and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I saw people trying to defend what happened. Was it for the 4th goal where Davis went to put his foot in, or Alan put his foot in, and then Davis put his foot in, and people and I don't slate Tom Davis. I'm not one of those people who get on his back. He's got his limitations, but I think he's all right. He does a job. He's never going to be a world beater, but I've got nothing against Tom Davis at all. But I think in that situation there, I think both him and Alan bottled it. I think Alan was too soft with his first tackle, and then Tom Davis. Why? When he gets to the ball, he then jumps as if to say, "Oh, don't come into me. Just go through the man. Just get the ball, because the ball's by you anyway. It was in your favour."
Literally all you have to do is run it to his right and get tripped up.
Yeah, I know, but it's just that for me. When you see that, that's when you have to question the attitude, because that for me was a simple situation where you win the ball. Okay, it's disappointing we've gone 3-2 down from being 2-1 up. I understand that, but get your head back in the game. There's 10 minutes to go, or whatever it might be. We can still get a point from this game. We've still got plenty of time. And the heads, if you want a definition of basically a team's head going, that was it. And it'd be shown for years and years and years, this, when you're looking back on like the Premier League years and stuff like that, about how embarrassing it was and how poor we were for those last sort of 12, 13 minutes. And it's just, it was astonishing. I was sitting there, and I always stay to the end. That's my personal choice, but I always stay to the end, and I'm thinking to myself, it can't get any worse. So it went to 4-2, can't get any worse. and it got worse, and you just think, what is going through the players' minds to actually go from being 2-1 up to losing the game 5-2 against an average Watford side and having Josh King score a hat-trick, which I didn't even realise until I left the ground. I didn't even realise he scored 3, to be honest with you. I must have just switched off.
That in itself, though, that tells you, like, in Josh King, I think there was, I know we were very charitable there, but in Josh King, there's a far better player than there is in Salman Rondon, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. We said this the other day ourselves. It's funny, isn't it, the fact that we had him there last season, and we could have kept him on. And to be fair, he wasn't really given much of a chance. Whatever the reasons behind that were, he wasn't given him much of a chance to play for us. I think he made 11 appearances. If you combine the minutes, it wasn't many minutes. And I always knew with Josh King there was a player there. There was someone who's got a bit of pace, knows the Premier League, got an eye for goal. I mean, he always scores against us, as the stats have said. And someone who's been in and around the English league, over the last couple of years when Rondon wasn't. So he would have been an ideal little, a free purchase in the summer. We got no money. There's nothing wrong with keeping Josh King, and he would have got a nice little run on the side when Dom's out, and probably would have scored probably 2 or 3 by now. And it's crazy how football works out. But I suppose hindsight's a wonderful thing when you have a player who you had on your books then come back to haunt you when we're struggling with the man who's come in to obviously take over the games from Dom and me in the short term. That's football. But yeah, you got to question the decision to bring him in when the manager would have known that he's nowhere near full fitness. He's going to take probably months to get anywhere near full fitness, and then obviously sod's law is our striker gets injured and he's having to play 90 minutes week in, week out.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. Obviously, maybe it's bad luck in that sense with Rondon, but I think a lot of questions need to be asked of, I think, the manager as well, in terms of, the manager's got to do better in terms of calming the players down. What I will say about Ancelotti is that he was a calming influence. And I know Benitez is quite a motivator, which is great in sort of getting players. And I think on the occasions when we have had a fully fit squad, we've seen a better performance from the players than we did maybe last season. More enjoyable on the eye, and good going forward. I think there's been a lot more energy about them, but I think what maybe improved in that respect, I think we've lost in terms of mentality. I think there's like a real lack of composure about us at times, especially at the back.
Yeah, it's been shown time and again. Well, a couple of occasions this season where we totally lack composure in terms of conceding goals so quickly. The football has arguably been better, especially obviously you look at the 6-7 minutes against Burnley where we just ripped it apart, which was just unbelievable to see. That Southampton's second game of the season was just fantastic, and it's just, I think that the manager was probably a little bit too stubborn at the weekend. As I say, for me, I would have gone with 3 in midfield from minute one. Just do it from minute one. Sure, make sure we're tight. Play. If you obviously Rondon started the game, play Gray and Townsend either side. 3 in midfield, and then he got a chance of winning the midfield battle because they had a few, really, really athletic lads in the middle there. Big lads, carry the ball well, strong, powerful. And we just lost the battle from minute one. I know we scored early doors, but we just lost that battle. And when you lose that battle, it's such a key part of the pitch that more often than not you go on to lose the game. And it showed as the game went on. We were just getting overrun. So that's why even a 2-1, shut up shop. That's what Ancelotti was good at, wasn't he? If we win the game 1-0 or something like that, or 2-1, he'd bring on, say, like an Andre Gomez or Tom Davis or whatever it might be, and pack the midfield. And how effective, especially for the first, say, 6 months of last season, was that? It was really effective. And that's maybe what the manager needs to look at as well. Okay, I've got my system here, which is great, but if we need to sort of see a game out and make it ugly, then for the last 15, that's what I'll do. I'll throw on an extra body in midfield and shore things up. And that's where not having Gbamin on the pitch made no sense. If he's in the squad and he's fit enough, he's a big lad as well. So from set pieces, another big unit to head the ball away. Get him on there. In pre-season, he showed me he showed me a fair bit. I was quite impressed in pre-season with him. I know obviously it was early days in terms of him having any kind of consistent run. I know we had little niggles since, but he's got all the attributes to be a decent player for us. And when you are getting battered in the midfield like that, even at 2-1 up, get him in there because he'll cause problems, and he's big and he's strong, and that could have won us the game. So I don't understand not putting three in midfield, to be honest.
Yeah, is there more than what meets the eye with Gavaman? I think there's something still obviously
Possibly.
not right there.
But again, that could be a fragility thing with his mental state, because he's had so many setbacks. He's thinking, well, can I do this? We've seen him, a couple of times in the cup games. Maybe it's him. We don't know, do we? We're not privy to those conversations. Maybe he is struggling and thinking, well, I'm going to break down again if I get on that pitch. But that's obviously for him and the club to try and sort out. I know he's been through, obviously, he got done for the drink driving, didn't he? Was it 6 weeks ago and things like that. And obviously away from his family, he's found it hard to probably settle because of the injuries. He's had no run of games, but you've got to start somewhere. And that's why, that would have been an ideal swap for me. And that's why probably we'll start and go come in against Wolves into the squad, because he's someone, I know he's had a long-term injury, but his mentality is different, and he's someone who can give you some legs for, say, the last 15 minutes or so in a game, and will help shore things up.
And with that in mind, obviously, before we wrap up, next game, like you say, Wolves on Monday night, how do we bounce back from this?
Well, I don't want to hear from them, to be honest with you. I don't want all the nonsense that we get served up, in terms of, I know, it never really bothers me when they come up with the rallying cries, and Seamus Coleman says this and Michael Keane says this, and never really bothers me, because it's just part of the job. I know they have to do it, but if Everton had any sense, they just boycott social media, unless obviously they need to be on there. So none of the saying in video stuff, none of the trying to whip the fans up before the game. Do you talking on the pitch on Monday? Have you dressing down? By all accounts, there's been discussions. I know the Athletic put out a good article this morning that Greg O'Keefe wrote in terms of what's gone on since, and there was serious words had after the game, and they were told not to give away City fouls, and they did, and stuff like that. But just take your medicine, get your dressing down, get your head down, sort yourselves out. Hopefully we've got Yeremina back for Monday. Hopefully he's fit. Hopefully Richarlison comes through this week unscathed. There's talk that Andre Gomez could be back in the squad, which is another body. It's as much as people might think he's not effective, I think he's done fairly well when he's come on this season. I think as a sort of 20-minute cameo, I think he's done all right. They just got to basically concentrate this week. They've got to put out of their head, basically, as much as we might struggle to. They've got to forget about it now, because if you go into Monday with that in the back of your mind, and you start to play with fear then. So they've got to show us on Monday that they actually care, and they have got a half-decent mentality, because, we've got a sold-out away end as per usual, and it's about, they need to get the fans something back after probably our worst home defeat in, how many years? It's the worst defensive display I've seen in all my years watching Everton. It's the worst defensive display I've seen, especially because of the fact.
It's the worst thing since, I think, we lost 6-1 against Arsenal on the opening day once. I think that's probably the most we've conceded at Goodison since.
Yeah. And I was there. Obviously, there was the underlying fact there was obviously the Lescott situation, wasn't there? And, him trying to get his move away and things like that. But I think that once to sit there and watch that live, those last 12, 13 minutes were the worst I've ever seen in my life. And it shouldn't be that way, considering if you look at that back four, all four of those players are internationals, by the way, full internationals, so it's not on. And I know obviously we can keep on saying about we haven't got our full squad to pick from and what have you, but it doesn't matter. That side was good enough to beat Watford and should have caused Watford more problems, and good enough to shut up shop as well. So
there's got to be a level of professional pride there, hasn't there?
Well, they were unprofessional when it came to the Watford game. It was unprofessional, in my opinion. But like you say, when it comes to Monday, there's got to be some professional pride and thinking, listen, we need to bounce back. We owe the fans something. We owe ourselves as professional footballers something as well, to show that we're not that side that that put in that performance against Watford. So we'll see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can bounce back and put in a half decent performance.
Definitely, I think, like you say, I think we as fans, more than anything, I think are owed it. I think after what we've been put through there, I think I've probably one of, like you said, I think that's one of the most chastening experiences I've had as an Everton fan, and that's probably saying something.
Yeah, I think as well, don't forget the undercurrent of the manager as well. That's never going to help the situation. He's built up quite a bit of goodwill over the last, since he's come in and since the season started, and things like that don't help the situation with certain people, because that kind of performance, people are already ready to jump on things because of the appointment. So he's got to be thinking as well. He's got to think, I've got to work out a few puzzles here. So if we're in that kind of situation again, what would I do differently? He's got to reflect, hasn't he? Let's get it right. All the best minds just do. All the best minds just take some kind of blame as well. And I think he's got to for various things. So it'll be I'm sure this week will be one of reflection for the team and one of the needs to start putting things right.
Definitely, I think that's what we want to see anyway. But one thing we will finish with on this show, we're going to do a quick. Earlier today, our Toffee Blues Twitter account, we put out a Q&A, basically asking for your opinions on the game and what went wrong. So I'm just going to run through a few of the tweets from Everton fans on social media, on Twitter. We'll start with Stu 176666455. Bad management leaving the club with a poor squad, but yesterday was down to the attitude of the players. I'm disgusted in them. I think we can all agree with that one. I'm disgusted with it as well. Plenty to get through here, plenty of opinions, and not generally positive, as you'd imagine. Rick Fury, Davis, he made so many mistakes in the middle, which led to pressure on the back. Also, Godfrey Rondon was just useless. The lack of depth we have is shocking. It is. Again, we've touched a lot, I think, on that, haven't we? The depth in the squad, the lack of it, more like. James Heaney, whole hierarchy of the club stinks, completely amateurish, and it runs right through to the players. This type of result will happen again. That's why our fans aren't surprised anymore. James, you've hit the nail on the head there, mate. I've spoke about this myself. I'm quite opinionated on this front. The club is run like an absolute circus, and it's, I think that's why we get these results so regularly in recent years. Even though this was probably the worst of the lot, there are elements of other games that you can sort of recite during that horrific 12-minute period. There's plenty of people like saying that there was games that it reminded them of Everton's past. That they can recall. So it says a lot that this is not the first time this has happened. This just might happen to have been the worst. Steve Dow says, Brand spending 35 million on a Wobie, zonal marking, letting Mina play 390 minutes. By that you mean for Colombia. While he's not getting a kick for us, he's out injured now because of that, maybe or unfit. Brands and co-buying utter dross like Gomez. I feel like that's a bit harsh, considering, I'm not saying Gomez hasn't been poor, but he wasn't even on the pitch yesterday. And virtually no youth coming through under Unsworth. Again, that's one of the few things we didn't touch on, I think. The fact that we haven't really, or we've got these youth players, but they're not ready to call upon in the event of an injury crisis like what we're going through right now. It's a tough one. And this is probably a pretty level-headed response. This from Daniel Plantagenet. Same problems as last year. A good first 11, but any injuries, and the lads coming in seem bereft of confidence and fitness. The amount of injuries we get is terrible. What happens in training? It's a good question though. Like how you seem to get more injuries than anyone. Like something must be being done wrong when you think about it like that.
It's been that way for years, though, wasn't it? Been that way for years. It appears with us. But the manager apparently, when he came in, wanted to sort the injury issues out that we had. He wanted to improve our injury record, and so far that's been unsuccessful, should we say?
Very unsuccessful. if anything, it seems worse. But I'm not sure. I think a lot of that might well be down to Benitez's. Like I say, he's a motivator. He's a grafter. He wants his team to graft. I think maybe he's asking for more out of these players than they're physically ready for. That might explain a few of the injuries.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, you see them on these training videos. They always, within the sessions, there's always quite a bit of running, even without the ball. A lot of the sort of basic fitness stuff, which hark back to maybe a David Moyes era. So maybe it's a bit of a shock to the system to certain players that they're doing that kind of thing, because the body has adjusted over the last maybe couple of years when it was very much not fitness orientated. So that could be a reason as to why we're seeing so many issues early doors this season.
Yeah, it's one of those. I think we just need to try and get the team back to full fitness as quickly as possible. And until then, we're probably going to be scrapping it out for points. It's tough to take, but it's the way it is. And finally, we'll finish on a very light-hearted note, because by God, we need a bit of humour at least. Stephen Williams, his tweet: "I'm currently considering sacrificially burning all my Everton belongings so my 5-week-old son could lead his life without the burden of being an Everton fan." By the time he's my age, we'll probably still be trying to find a replacement for Seamus Coleman.
Possibly so, yeah. But we all
kind of sums up the sentiments of everyone right now, doesn't it?
It does. It's what it takes a defeat like that. It's a sobering defeat, isn't it? It's a kind of game where, you think, yeah, we've improved, but we're certainly nowhere near where we should be. The start of the season, go back 2 weeks ago or what have you, we were close to being, if we beat West Ham, we go in the top four. It's, since then it's all changed, but we've got to. It's hard because you've got to have patience again. We say it all the time. What's having patience? We've got to sort of have some patience. But when you watch that at the weekend, patience wears very, very thin, very, very quickly.
Definitely, you say it was sobering experience. I don't know about you. I think it was very much intoxicated by the end of that Saturday.
Well, I luckily I don't drink, because otherwise I might have been under the table by about sort of 6:30, to be honest with you. But it wasn't a great. It certainly wasn't a great game to be at. But let's hope, fingers crossed, we see a proper Everton performance come Monday night at Wolves.
Fingers crossed, definitely. We just need to see something different. But anyway, it's on to Wolves now, and fingers crossed that certainly needs to be better than last time. That's for sure. Fingers crossed we get something like that. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Let us know your opinions on the game as well. Drop us a comment, give this video a like, and subscribe for more content. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching on the Toffee Blues.